How's it going, guys? It's Double Room here, and I'm gonna be doing like a week in review, of the start of the NBA playoffs. Um, so first, we're gonna talk about I'm only gonna talk about the series that I've really been like paying attention to, watching a lot of games. So I've watched every Celtics Nets game, I've watched every Grizz Wolves game, and I've watched every Warriors Nuggets game. Um, oh, and I've watched Bucks Chicago. So that's four series to talk about. Should only take, 10, 15 minutes at the most. Try to keep it shorter. I know I've made some long videos. So to start off with, the most exciting is Celtics Nets. Now, it's very common. You guys already know this if you've been watching games, but the Boston defense is incredible. You should watch there's a YouTube channel called Thinking Basketball, and you should watch the most recent video on the Celtics defense. It's really informative, but pretty much the Celtics, it's strange. Their defense is a very, common strategy when guarding great players like Kevin Durant. And since they're usually playing a lot of non-shooters out there, like Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton, for large stretches of the game, there's not a lot of space. And for whatever reason, Katie's handle is just a lot looser, it seems like. He's getting his pickpocketed more. He's played really good defenses in the past and torched them, and there's something just going on that's strange. Like his shot making is diminished, his handle is diminished, and he just looks unconfident out there on the court in all three games. It's very strange. It's not his fault completely. Obviously, his teammates. He is getting hedged against heavily. He's getting game planned against completely. But it's just so strange to watch last year's playoffs and then this year's playoffs where Durant is just struggling to get, anything going. And um, but it's the Boston's defense. And I think an aspect of it is Tatum, right? Who has Durant struggled against in his career? Well, defensively, you can't really, no one really comes to mind except Tony Allen, like back in the day, and the grit and grind Grizzlies especially, and some of those earlier OKC days. Um, but he really hasn't had anyone lock him up. Even LeBron, who is a similar size to Tatum, um, hasn't ever really locked him up. I think a big part of that is LeBron's lack of quickness when he's faced Durant because their timelines are a little different. LeBron's a little older. Um, when he's played against Durant, it's usually been when he's a little past his prime athletically, like in 2017 and 18 in the finals or whatever, or kind of in that stretch, and now especially. Like LeBron just doesn't have the same defensive capabilities that he did earlier in his career. But Tatum is 24. He's got young legs. He's got his athleticism is still at its peak, um, and he's now also got the effort, motor, and intelligence to play him. And he's got great length. He's got great size, and he's really putting a lot of effort into the defensive end. Man, that's crazy. Tatum, you know, at the end of the season, as the season was going along, I kind of had moved him into the fringe top 10, like, 10 to 8 kind of range. I think he's moved up, man. He's in my opinion at least, and I'm a big Curry fan. Curry's the most fun player to watch ever. But I think Tatum is in that tier 2 of players, at least, and he might even be tier 1 after the Bucks series, because I'm pretty sure they're going to beat the Bucks. If the Bucks obviously make it out, I think they will. So yeah, man, Bruce Brown though has been awesome for the Nets. He's just getting lots of wide open opportunities, and Kyrie has been really invisible in these last two games. And I can't really pinpoint to the Celtics defense really stopping him. Obviously, it's a factor, but since they're hedging so heavily against Durant, you'd expect Kyrie to come out and put on some scoring clinics like he did game one and just be hitting little mid ranges over one guy's, dancing on people, getting to the cup, but it just hasn't really been happening too much. And he's been really passive. Could have to do with fatigue. His conditioning is not great because he barely played this season. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaways of the Celtics next series is the Celtics team. I picked them before the playoffs started, okay, to win the finals against the Warriors. So, I can show you my NBA pick'em. But so yeah, my pick the Celtics. They look like the best team in the league to me. They look especially the best team in the East. They have been playing great defense. Tatum has stepped up. Jaylen Brown is making just the most of his opportunities. Everyone is just it's just such a great team, and this is a very underrated aspect of basketball, especially the NBA. Your teammates, like how close you guys are, relationship wise, really matters. Like the Celtics team has been together for a long time now. I mean, what Marcus Smart got there in like 15 or something. So he's been there like 7, 8 years. Tatum's been there like 4 or 5 years. Jaylen Brown's been there 5, 6 years or whatever. So it's like uh, they've been together for a long time. They really know each other, and it's all homegrown talent for the most part. So they've gotten really close and all seem to really like each other. And then Ime has kind of been a great presence as well. It's just a championship team. It's not any of this AAU, let's go join a super team stuff that doesn't really work as well as you'd think. Because some of the most important aspects about a team is the relationships, is the personal chemistry, is how much you guys actually like each other. Because if you're playing with a bunch of people you don't like and the game's going tough, well, you're more likely to get mad at your teammates, start blaming them. But if you're all like really tight and you're just like, guys, we got this, you got it next time, no big deal. But if you have a bad relationship, it's going to just kind of be like, God dang, like, why are you taking that shot? You know what I mean? So I think that's a very underrated aspect of this Celtics team. All right, the next best series is definitely the Grizz versus Wolves. So now it's tied 2-2. It's so crazy how these playoff series just like it could be tied 3, or the Wolves should easily be up 3-1 because the last game they blew 20-point leads. Like watching the game was just so weird because it was like, okay, they're up 20, and 20 points in the modern NBA. I feel like this season I've watched tons of 20-point comebacks, and it's been happening the last few years, really last like 4 or 5 years with decent regularity. I don't got stats on that, but just from the eye test watching games, it seems pretty regular. So I wasn't really that surprised because I think the Timberwolves were up like 20 in like the second quarter or whatever, and then the Grizzlies came back, and it was like a 5-point game or like 2-point game or something. But then the Grizz or the Wolves built up another 20-point lead, and there was like 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and they were up 20. And at that point, you're kind of like, yeah, this game it's going to be tough to come back 20 in one quarter, especially like it's just tough, especially in the fourth quarter because stuff just gets a lot harder. People are more tired. The game slows down a little. But then the Grizzlies just made another run, and they closed out the last like 2 minutes of the third quarter with like 10, 11 points, and they just racked it up. And then they came back and won the game. And this game, it was kind of a similar story. The Wolves just outplayed them. Like the takeaways from watching this series are the Wolves just have more talent. And coming into the series, I picked the Wolves personally. I did. From what I understand about the playoffs, talent is so important, which kind of goes against my Toronto pick, but I'm kind of a Embiid hater, so it was a little biased. But talent usually wins in the playoffs, like no matter what. And the Grizz and Wolves, like the Wolves just have more talent. D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards are 3 of the best 4 players in the series, right? And you could even argue Ant Edwards is, I'm not gonna, but you could argue he's the best player in the series, but maybe not. Anyways, he's just a little young, but he has the tools to be, like he has the most talent for sure. Anyways, yeah, so the Timberwolves just have more talent. I picked them coming in, but they're just, Chuck said it on TNT, and it's kind of just cliche, and it's not really super informative. But the Timberwolves are just a really dumb team. They make so many mental mistakes. They like in this game, just like little things that a Chris Paul led team would never make. You know what I mean? So like Karl Anthony Towns, he grabbed like a rebound with like a 2 minutes left and stepped out of bounds instead of just letting the ball bounce out. When you play pickup basketball, don't chase the rebound if no one can get it. Just let it go. It's your ball automatically, And Karl Anthony Towns just ran for the ball, even though it was going out of bounds already, just after a Memphis shot, grabs it, steps out of bounds. And it's like, what are you doing? And it's like 2 minutes left in the game. some other plays like Malik Beasley arguing with the ref about a foul call that he was assigned, but should have been assigned to Jaden McDaniels. But Malik Beasley had like 0 or only 1 foul at the time, and Jaden McDaniels had 4. So it was just like he was trying to claim that it wasn't his fault and arguing with the refs. And our Richard Jefferson was talking about this on the broadcast, so that's why I remember it. But like, you just got to call out the foul, say it's you, especially if your teammate is in foul trouble, especially a teammate who's playing more than you. You just got to try to take the foul. So even regardless of if it would have changed the outcome of the foul call, I just feel like he shouldn't have. He should have not argued his case. And some other mental mistakes of just like, miss a free throw, give up a wide open layup. Make a 3, no one gets back on defense, and they get like a wide open floater. Like, just mistakes like that. Bad passes, turnovers. And I watch a lot of Warrior basketball, so I see a lot of sloppy turnovers all the time. But usually the sloppy turnovers in the Warriors case is leading, overall it leads to good offense in the sense of, yes, maybe they turn it over way more than any other team, but the times they don't turn it over, they get better quality shots than every other team. So it kind of balances out in that way, but the Timberwolves is not the case. They're just making dumb turnovers at dumb times, dumb fouls, like bad awareness of what's going on in general, just with the game, like certain foul calls, certain passes. Like, it's just frustrating to watch them, but I still believe that they can win. I really think I'm a little less confident since they have to play 2 more games in Memphis, but yeah. Also, Ja Morant, I'm a kind of a Ja truther here. All season I've been saying he's overrated. I don't like, just because he makes cool dunks doesn't mean he's a top 10 player, and he's not as good as prime Derrick Rose, at least relative to the league, right? Like, prime Derrick Rose relative to the league was a better player than Ja's right now, because the league is so much different. It's just so much more skilled than it was. So relative to the league, Ja Morant's not as good. He's not going to be able to lead your offense to the same heights as Derrick Rose. And he's not as well built. He's not as like big, and he can't absorb as much contact. And he can't, honestly, I don't know. Derrick Rose is a more willing shooter as well. So that adds another element of his game. But yeah, Ja's pretty much been game planned out. On defense, he's a big liability, and on offense, they just swarm him as he barrels to the paint, and he has trouble finding passing lanes and kicking out, which is something he was pretty proficient at all year. So, but they've just been coming at him from all angles and kind of blocking off his hole, like the corners and top of the key, like the wings and stuff. So Memphis has struggled getting Ja involved. Also, I want to give a shout out to Brandon Clark, Desmond Bane. They've been playing so great. They've been honestly playing like the 2 best players on the Grizz, and then Dylan Brooks after that. And man, Jaren Jackson Jr. So yeah, shout out to Desmond Bane, shout out to Brandon Clark. Seems like every time Brandon Clark gets it, he makes the shot. He just like has these little floaters, little post ups that just go in every time, and it's like, dude, get this guy the ball more. I want to see what he can do. He's been huge in a few games. Jaren Jackson Jr. kind of struggling. His shot is so ugly. If you've never seen his shot, Google his shot. It is so ugly. It literally, I don't know how it ever goes in because it just looks horrible. He literally like shoots it. I'm gonna try to do a demonstration. He literally like shoots it, and he shoots it like this, like a 5-year-old would shoot it. It's super weird. But he hasn't really been much of a factor, and Ja hasn't been really much of a factor in this series so far. So pretty interesting series. I think it's still gonna go 7. And yeah, the other series I've watched a lot of. I did say I've watched a lot of Bucks Bulls. Now that I think about it, I really haven't. I didn't see Game 3, and I don't think I watched. I think I only watched Game 2, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Then the Warriors Nuggets. So I actually went to a Warriors game last weekend. I was in San Francisco. Second time ever I've been to California. Kind of crazy. But yeah, saw Warriors game in person. Saw game one. Jordan Poole went off. It was Curry's first game back in months, and it was super fun. I was honestly a little. The crowd wasn't as hyped as I was hoping, but I will be honest, it was a kind of a blowout. So that does tend to happen in blowouts, where it's just kind of like, you know, usually people get hyped when it's a close game and everyone's cheering and da da da. But it was still super fun every time Curry got the ball or anytime Poole even got the ball. Really, just every time 3-pointers were made, the arena went crazy. There was some nice Warriors chants and stuff, and it was just a really fun time. I'm glad I got to see Steph Curry in person once in my life. That was a big reason I wanted to go. But to talk about the series, it's been talked about ad nauseum at this point, but the Warriors are just too talented. It's just that simple. And it sucks to have simplified things, but the Warriors are just too talented. I do question their ability to deal with a Memphis. Memphis is probably Memphis and Boston are the two worst matchups in my opinion for the Warriors, just because of their athleticism and youth. And the Warriors rely so much on like pushing the pace, speed, crisp like cuts, going around screens, strong screens, and like when you play against a lot of athleticism, they can kind of circumvent some of that stuff. They can also push the pace. Pushing the pace actually benefits them in a lot of cases. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. But they're looking like the old Warriors, man. Everyone's been saying it. They're, getting wide open shots, getting wide open dunks, making the other teams pissed, dancing on them, shimmying on them, just sinking their shots, and it's just really fun to watch. And everyone's moving around. It looks awesome. It's the most entertaining team to watch by far in the league. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my week in review. And I only, talked about a few series here. And sorry I've been scratching my nose so much. Just kind of, yeah, it's just, I don't know what it's just feeling weird. But yeah, anyways, double rim out. Thank you for watching, and peace.